So that's kind of how I looked at this as being time. Time is money. The time that we're selling, we're making money off of that. And so the more things that you do can keep them there longer, the better you're going to do. So ultimately, when a outside individual, say from the restaurant industry, looks at us and says, well, why are your profitability so much higher? It's because I'm selling time. I'm not just selling food, but I'm selling time with that too.
Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges facing the attractions industry today.
We chat with some of the top leaders in the field and provide resources that will help develop your career in this great industry.
I am Josh Liebman. I am obsessed with the guest experience and helping attractions make that their top priority for success.
And I'm Matt Heller. I am passionate about organizational effectiveness, leadership development, and employee engagement.
Now sit upright, hold on tight, and get ready for the Attraction Pros podcast.
Hey, Josh, how are you?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing really well. How are you?
I am fantastic.
All right.
Giddy up. Hey, I got a question for you.
All right, giddy up.
Now, I know you live in the city in Chicago. I'm not super familiar with the retail environment around where you are, but I'm curious, when was the last time that you went to what we might call a big box store, such as a Best Buy or a Staples or a Bed Bath & Beyond, something like that?
Couldn't tell you. I don't know, 1993, maybe.
Wow.
Maybe not that long, but it's been a while. What about you?
Maybe not that long ago. I get a lot of printing done at Staples, so I do have to go there quite a bit. But the reason I'm asking is because our guest today has some wonderful ideas to reutilize and revitalize some of that big retail space that, because you haven't been there since 1993, they've all gone out of business.
Exactly. They need me, right? Or they need Tim Murphy. Tim is the CEO of Boomers Parks. And if that name sounds familiar, that's because this is not his first appearance on the Attraction Pros podcast. He was on just about 3.5 years or so ago, just after he had taken on the role of CEO at Boomers. And we were talking about navigating the storm through the pandemic and a lot of the initiatives he had put in place. And this is very much, I would say, a sequel, a part 2 to that. I remember him talking about improving some food and beverage offerings and kind of comparing Walmart to Target. And we go way deeper into all those topics and a lot more. And he is just always so insightful and so inspirational. I love when we get the chance to talk to him because he always has so many great things to share.
What I think is really cool, and maybe we should think about this in the future, is that we got to talk to him when he first started or when he was starting some initiatives. And now a few years later, we've actually been able to see how those initiatives have played out. He was kind enough and transparent enough to be able to share some numbers with us. And so now seeing kind of how the progress has gone based on those ideas and initiatives is kind of cool.
That's a really good idea. We should do, because we've talked to a lot of people after they've just taken on a role and now they've been there for some time.
Yeah.
Wow,
see how it's going.
People off the top of my head. All right. Anyway, we'll talk about that offline. But in this interview, we dive deeper into high quality food and beverage offerings within FECs. And, that on the surface level just makes sense. I'm just like, you've got all the fan favorites, which Tim talks about how it's important to actually keep those for your regulars, for, your longtime guests, but also improving the quality of it. And that doesn't just serve your food and beverage department, that actually serves all the other areas of the business, because he talks about how that increases length of stay, which then increases per capita spending. So that actually boosts sales over in attractions or in the arcade, because the higher quality food and beverage is keeping people on site longer.
And it also really impacts the overall experience. He talks about date nights and corporate buyouts and, those type of things that may not happen if all you have are, hot dogs and hamburgers and chicken fingers. Right. So elevate that experience and you get a slightly different kind of guest. He also talks a lot about the people and how important it is that you take care of the people your people in terms of the employees so that they will take care of the guests. And obviously that's something that you and I have talked about many, many times, but it's great to hear some of his very specific and practical strategies to bring that to life.
You know, there was one thing that he mentioned that I really appreciated is, he's talking about core values. And he very specifically said, we're not just taking our core values and putting it on a poster on the wall. And he was able to share how they truly live and breathe those, because I think it's easy to come up with core values, but I think the challenge is, okay, how are they in place every single day with every single team member across 8 locations throughout the country, from coast to coast, from Florida and New Jersey over to California. And so it's just so insightful, like I mentioned earlier, and just so inspirational to hear his method and his philosophy for being able to do that.
So should we go ahead and jump into this conversation with Tim?
I say let's do it.
Boom. Hers.
Hey, Tim, welcome back to the Attraction Pros podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great, Josh. Glad to be here. Glad to talk to you again. It's been a while. So
yeah, absolutely. It's been a few years. I recall in our last conversation, I think it was early 2021. So I'm guessing that thing that happened right before that time frame was the highlight of the conversation. I think we were talking about coming back from the pandemic and a lot of the strategies you were implementing at Boomers. And now I feel like we're going to have probably an entirely different conversation, which will probably be very refreshing to our audience. But you've got a lot of exciting things going on. But before we dive into it, for those who maybe aren't familiar with you or maybe aren't familiar with Boomers, can you give us just a quick snapshot introduction?
Sure. Boomers, it became APX operating company in June 2020 when I took over as CEO. Used to be Apex Parks Group with 16 parks. Today we're with 8. During the pre and post bankruptcy, I helped select which parks to keep and which ones would go. And here we are today with 5 family entertainment centers in California, 1 in Boca Raton, Florida, and 2 water parks, 1 in Destin, Florida, and 1 in New Jersey. Both the water parks are called Big Kahunas.
Awesome. So I know you also have background like from your family, right? Had a mini golf place, is that right? I mean, so
yeah, I go back to when I was 8.
Yeah.
So my parents had a miniature golf arcade and restaurant growing up in New Jersey called the Spirit of 76 after the bicentennial. They kept that for a few years, then sold it and moved to Florida. And I ended up joining Walt Disney World when Epcot Center was opening in 1982.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Yeah. Just wanted to tie that in to the rest of the experience.
Been doing it for a long time, Matt.
Right? Yeah.
And then they decided, okay, after that, let's go into restaurants. So I worked for a lot of restaurant brands, about 150 brands and 10,000 locations over my career. Eventually, a friend of mine from the restaurant industry said, hey, I got a buddy that's in trampolines. Would you go work for him? And ultimately, I end up taking the job as CEO, helping them sell the company. We had patents on those and ended up suing some of the very large trampoline parks that are out there owned by private equity. And that helped us sell the company. After that, I've also had a little time off, a few months, and then the Carlyle Group reached out to me and said, hey, come on down to South America and take a look at some acquisitions we're looking at. So I helped them with the acquisition of over 100 family entertainment centers and amusement parks in Colombia, Peru, and Chile. And to this day, I'm still a board director. A couple months after that, Cerberus reached out and said, hey, would you take a look at Apex for us? And here we are today, 4 years into the CEO role after the whole pre and post bankruptcy that I helped them with.
Excellent. Well, Tim, we've got a lot of things to dive into today. Like Josh said, we're not going to talk about the pandemic, but some of these things might be, I don't know, kind of aftermath of that a little bit. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about or ask you a little bit about is, the fact that time is money and we have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of money, and thinking about how we keep our facilities profitable in the time that we have. I wonder if you can kind of share your philosophy about that.
Sure. And I think it kind of takes a look back when I was with restaurants. Restaurants are labor and food as well as controllables and non-controllables. But in a family entertainment center setting, it is food, labor, controllables, non-controllables, but it's also selling tickets, time to something. And you're selling a lot more of that in a family entertainment center business. And the ratio, I mean, we can talk about a lot of large chains out there, Dave and Buster's and others that have a higher percentage of this. But from what I've seen, we've gone from about 4% in food sales to now we're running 21% in food sales, and it continues to get better. But having better foods, better quality keeps people there longer, and you're selling more of the time of your attractions in our parks. So that's kind of how I looked at this as being time, time is money. The time that we're selling, we're making money off of that. And so the more things that you do can keep them there longer, the better you're going to do. So ultimately, when a outside individual, say from the restaurant industry, looks at us and says, well, why are your profitability so much higher? It's because I'm selling time. I'm not just selling food, but I'm selling time with that too. Just happens to be a large percentage of that. 78% is time that I'm physically selling today. So when you explain that to someone, they say, well, that means you must be more profitable. Well, I can share that, my Boca Raton location, 48 cents on every dollar is profit for us in that location before corporate overhead. So yeah, we're profitable in these facilities because I'm selling more time than I am food at the end of the day.
One of the things that, or one of the ways maybe I interpret this from my takeaways is the investment in enhancing food and beverage quality also enhances the attraction component of the business as well. So if people are staying and anchoring their visit around a mealtime, that in and of itself, like you said, increases the length of the stay in the visit. So the increase investment in food might increase your cost of goods on the food side, but naturally you're able to increase the prices. So you've got hopefully higher margins on food and beverage, while at the same time, people are now buying attraction tickets as well.
Absolutely. So, diving in that just a little bit further, when you take a look at first, when we got on board with the company and said, all right, we know we've got okay food. Okay. It wasn't the greatest. You still have fan favorites, can't get rid of pizza, hot dogs, hamburgers, chicken fingers, and fries, right? Got to have those. But what can we do to make them better? Can we do sliders? Can we do flatbreads? Can we do salads? Can we upgrade the taste in each of these? We put a lot of different flavors onto our menu. We've also added other components. They always had beer and wine in all of our parks, but we went a little bit further and got full alcohol licenses in 7 of the 8 parks. One just cost prohibitive to get that one. But what it does is we're now giving the guests something that they would want, a better product, upgrading the food. As I told our VP of Food and Beverage, Tom Mendez, and taking this, we're going to continue to ideate this menu every single year and try to make it better. And what that does is the guest sees this. They see different things coming in. Of course, they're looking for the fan favorites, but now there's some non-veto votes. We've got rid of some of those because we have better foods. What I did not like seeing when I first came on board is people would come in with other product. I don't want other product coming into my park. I don't care if it's Starbucks down the street. I want to make sure that they're buying from us, that we give them what they would ultimately want. And I've seen this in other FECs that I've been around the country and others that I've looked at, and even when I was at Rebounders Trampoline Parks, giving them a little bit better product is going to increase their stay. That's the name of the game, is increasing the time they're there. They're not saying, hey, let's go leave and go down to the street to the quick service place or convenience store to get some food and then come back. No, I want something that's going to keep them there. If they stay there longer, ultimately, they spend more. Ultimately, they're playing more arcade games. They're on the attractions longer. And what I've seen from the experience from the last time we chatted, we were about 90 minutes they would stay in our parks. Now they're 3-4 hours and not all day in our parks. And that just means there's more profitability because they're buying more food, they're playing more games, they're doing retail. We put cabanas in all of our facilities when and where we can, just like you would have in a water park. It's a VIP area. People want their space, so they buy that upgrade and they stay there. And we sell it every weekend in Boca and Irvine, California. And we even tripled the size in Boca because so many people were coming in wanting their space and willing to spend the extra time and money for that space. Again, time. We're selling time, but the food component is something that keeps people there. I've been to so many FECs that the thought of food was cafe, vending machines. Really, I had seen them where it's a carousel of an old pizza from a Domino's just growing around. It's like, how long has that been sitting there? It's like wilting over top of the whole thing. And you go, oh, I don't want to eat that. This is like rubber, or I'm not sure what this is, but it's how long has that been there? And that's not what people and guests are looking for. I think there's a lot in the industry that miss this because it keeps people there longer. If you have good quality food, drink, whatever they're looking for, they're going to stay longer. And ultimately, it creates more profitability and your per caps rise based off of that.
So Tim, this might be sort of an in the weeds kind of question, but it's something I'm curious about. Like, as you talk about increasing the food quality and increasing your drink offerings, was that something that took a while to catch on, or did people kind of grasp onto that relatively quickly?
Yeah, so the answer is twofold. So the regulars that were coming in expect the same carnival food that they always had, right? So that's why you can't get rid of the fan favorites. You got to keep those types of things because they're expecting that. You're going to expect pizzas at birthday parties. You're going to expect, you know, okay, I'm going to get a fry order and we're going to do whatever. And so little by little, as they were coming in, we were trying to do two marketing events. One, the existing individuals that were coming into our parks, and I think I shared on the first call, was that they were kind of our Walmart shoppers. And we're going to try to get some more of the Target shoppers coming in. So as that blended with our guests, the newer guests coming in were demanding a better quality product. Well, we had to show people, we had to put out pictures, we put out on social media, on our website, let them know these are better quality products that are there. And eventually you see more of the Walmart shoppers starting to go towards the better quality product. It costs a little bit more, yes, but now we've got a better quality product. So did it happen overnight? No. You've got to start taking steps. Every year, we just keep making a little bit better, adding a little bit more. And it's amazing the things that we've gone through to get the food and beverage up higher. I would say on a per cap, when I first started, I was looking between $4 and $6 we were taking in per guest. Now, not everybody pays when they come into an FEC. So, you know, when you're calculating it, it's based on who buys a ticket in the facility. But the point is, we went from 4 to 6, and now we're running anywhere from 9 to 14. So it's really a dramatic increase, and they spend more based off of it, but it also, they spend it and they stay there longer.
That's amazing. And thank you for sharing those numbers too about the length of stay increase from the 90 minutes to 3 to 4 hours all day, and then tying that with the per cap increase as well. It really adds kind of a lot of context and paints the full picture of saying, this is the investment in food and beverage. This is the result of the investment in the increased F&B. Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you, Josh. But one last point on that is not everybody gets that. They just see that as an afterthought, especially in an FEC. You know, some of the larger ones, of course, they're putting F&B, they'll have chefs. Hey, I just did it. I don't have a chef. But what we do is we go to our distributor and utilize their chefs, bring in better quality products, and we do a lot of taste testing on and go, hey, can we add this to our product? But we have one target range. Coming from the restaurant industry, I have a target range of my food costs. You talked a little bit about food costs just a moment ago. I'm focusing on around 20% food costs. If you know most restaurants, they're really good. They're 25. But the 35, somewhere in that range, 25, 35. When I took over the parks, they were running 30, 50%. We're down to actually overall 21% in all of our parks. That includes liquor as well. That's tremendous drive, but that's tremendous more additional profitability because the bottom line, it's how we package it, how we price it, how we portion it. That's really interesting. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that as well. One of the other things I know we want to talk about is about real estate and the retail apocalypse. And maybe this does connect a little bit to the pandemic a little bit, but we know that the attractions industry, particularly FECs, have benefited substantially from a lot of big box retailers that have moved out a bit, as well as just with office space as well, a lot of vacancies. And curious as far as maybe your thoughts on that, your approach to it, what you're looking for in terms of, you know, retail space and repurposing some space that's moved out. Sure, and I'll even kind of give you where the origin, at least for us, came from. When we first took over the company in June 2020, we go, hey, do we need a corporate office in California? Pandemic's happening, not everybody's going to go to an office, that type of thing. We're working by Teams or Zoom or phone calls, but more importantly, meeting at the parks. And when I realized, hey, we're doing fine. Why do I want to spend $500,000 million a year on a corporate office with probably 3 or 4 people showing up when it's better for us just to let the support structure be wherever they're at and meet at the parks? That's more important to us. By seeing this, you go, all right, is there other opportunities out there? Because
I'm not going to go get a corporate office. That means others are not. And of course, we read it through the news and we see it on TV everywhere. You start looking around going, wow, there's a lot of real empty real estate. So when we look at this and what is the biggest space? There's a lot of space. We know Macy's are empty. There's, Oak Kohl's. There's other department stores out there that are vacant. But what's the biggest area that I believe an FEC could fit in on the inside of a building? And that's somewhere between 20 and 50,000 square feet. We know there's bigger ones that go 150, 200,000 square feet. That's an indoor theme park, basically. But if you're going to take a smaller FEC and put it down, that would potentially fit in 20, 50,000 square feet. So, all right, well, how many big boxes since the pandemic have closed in that retail space alone, not including offices, not including industrial space or other types of commercial spaces? And there's over 6,000 of those that fit that space around the country. I believe there's a plethora of locations to go to. And the good thing for those in the FEC space is landlords are flexible. That property's been sitting vacant for a while. They're paying taxes on it. They got to do upkeep. Maybe they got security on it. Who knows? But they can't sit there that vacant, or they're going to be giving it back to the bank. They need something in there that's a destination that will maybe bring other retail back to that center. This is an opportunity where an FEC can go in. Now, there's others that are going out into Sears, Kohl's, other larger facilities, and they're taking big pieces, 100,000, 200,000 square feet. I don't believe that's the sweet spot of the FEC. Not everyone could be an Andretti's. Not everyone could be a Main Event. Not everyone could be a Malibu Jack's or a Scene 75. So there are so many others in this space that are vacant. They're not coming back. We know retail's gone away for the most part. Everything's pretty much online. 3 times a day, I get deliveries to the house. So we know that, that's where things are coming from. And so it's not coming back. But this is an alternative to say, bring it back, because most landlords go, what do I do with this property? Do I turn it into office? Am I going to turn it into apartments? What is it I'm going to do with this? This is a way to start bringing it back, because you still have other services that need retail space, but you need something that's going to draw people to that location. And our FECs do that. One thing, I'll just go in another second, but one thing our FECs do is we've gone from about 2% online sales to over 40% online sales. It's a directed method looking at what amusement parks, water parks, and theme parks do is they try to push the ticket in advance so that they'll come in and spend a little bit more in in-park spend. Well, we took a page out of that book and said, all right, let's try doing that. Can we push it through paid, Google pay-per-clicks and other ways of selling tickets online? The answer is yes. And what that's done is it moved us to 40%, but it's just like a theme park or water park. It's a psychological break. When they buy a ticket in advance, they ultimately spend more in in-park spend. And that's what there's an opportunity out there that if you've got a way of bringing guests to you, because a lot of people open up an FEC and just say, hey, we're open now, and we're going to do a little bit of advertising on Facebook, and we're going to do a little this and that and throw a little promotions out there. And spend it on, all the wrong marketing, versus saying the consumer that goes to an FEC today is a Gen Z and millennials, and they're the ones that are looking online, looking for deals, trying to understand what's going on. That's how they shop. So let's go to them and bring them back in. And I think this is a solution to your overall original question is, what do we do with real estate? I think we can repurpose it in a different way.
So Tim, when you talk about like the big box retailers, a lot of the time they are anchors at a mall. So at a much larger facility, whether it's a strip mall or an internal mall. Do the plans also include something to happen within the rest of that space? Like what else could that mall be repurposed for?
Sure. You could do doctor's offices. You could do other businesses that could come in there. What other commercial related things you got to go see somebody for? That could be repurposed. If it's another way of bringing someone there, there are still other small retails, items you can go there, but not everyone is going to 120, 150,000 square foot old Sears. That's great that they're being built. I know owners that have done that, but there's nothing else in the mall. What else is driving you there? So if you don't have a way of bringing them there, then you got to work with that owner, that landlord. There may be a better opportunity might not be in that particular mall, but it might be across the street in the strip center where the old Bed Bath & Beyond's gone out, or the other type of facility has gone out because it's getting a little bit more drive-by traffic. But with those larger facilities, you don't have to take both floors, 3 floors. You can take one that's 50,000, 60,000 square feet and still accomplish what you're looking for. And that can be a draw as long as you got able to be able to bring people to you. You got to be able to do online sales.
Mm-hmm. One of the other things, too, that we know you're very passionate about is people. And, it's something Matt and I focus very heavily on the employee experience and on the guest experience, and would love to really kind of get your thoughts on how people can make or break the product, because you can have the best attractions in the world, you can have the best food in the world, but without the best people, it's not giving it all the value and all the potential that it certainly can. So can you give us a little insight into your hiring, training, and retention strategy?
I think it's twofold. One, I'm going to talk about a little bit with core values, what we run by, what we operate by, what do we value, what do we believe in, as well as what are we supplying to our team member when they come on board. What are they looking for? Yes, they want wages and so forth, but what are the other things we can do to make them feel better? How do we become an employer of choice? If you had to match up against another FEC to us, who would you go work for? If we're paying the same wage, is there something else that we're doing? Some of that comes back to the core values. Some of it is also what we do differently. So let's talk about first core values. What do we believe in? When I first started the company and I put in the employee handbook, these are the core values, my beliefs of what we should be doing. Today, they've incorporated that and we've turned those core values, still there, foundation and pillars. What do we stand upon? Safety, inclusion, things that we really stand upon, as well as pillars. What are we providing? Entertainment, accountability. These are things to hold the roof on. And once we explain what that means and the team has bought into it completely, they're teaching that to the team members. This is who we are. You're coming here to work for us. If integrity is one of those issues, which it is, honesty, integrity, and transparency, this is who we are. This is what we expect you to do. And these are the behaviors we're going to follow behind. These are also the things, if you break that, that's something that's not good for us. And so you got to understand, are you on the bus with us or are you somewhere else? So understanding what that culture is. Was that endorsed since the last time we chatted right off the bat? Absolutely not. Who is this guy, Tim, coming here? It's going to change these things around with these crazy ideas. We did whatever we wanted to do before. Fast forward 4 years. We have a team that's on board, management's on board, they understand it. This morning I had a management team call with everyone, and I always pick at least one core value to go over and we talk about it, let alone transparency of the business, things are going on. So it's getting them to understand that we're open. We talk about the good and the bad with the business. We talk about who we are and what we believe in, innovative risk-taking, and our social responsibility, that you should be motivated to be here. These are things we want and what we expect you to do with the guest. Now, the other piece of it is when we physically try to hire someone and ongoing is we want to be competitive with wages. I mean, I'm not going to be top dollar in every area, but we try to be very competitive. And when they come out with new minimum wage changes, well, we've already beat that. We're above that, and we're trying to be competitive with that. But what else do we want to be able to offer and remind our team members that we're doing differently than other potential opportunities for them to go to? One, we provide free meals when you work a shift. We provide free snacks and drinks and things of that nature. A lot of restaurants and some FECs don't provide that. So I'm like, we've got the food. Now, am I going to give every single top dollar high food cost item out to everyone? No, but we select a good group of things for them to have that they can eat there. I've gone out and done one-on-one meetings. I used to do town hall meetings. Now I'm doing a lot more one-on-ones when I go out to the parks. And I ask them, and it's really heartwarming to know that that might be the only meal they get for the day. And I'm happy to hear that, that at least we try to take care of them that way, let alone drinks and things like that for hydration. But then, as we look past the meals piece, we said, okay, what do we want for exceptional behavior? Like going above and beyond, doing more things. We want to reward them in some way consistently. That was the hardest thing we had initially. You like to say happy birthday to people, happy anniversary. This is what's going on. Good job, that type of thing. How do we do this consistently from the front lines as well as from corporate's point of view? And so we adopted a points program, a Nectar program that gives points out for going above and beyond. 50 points here, 100 points there, so forth. But they can redeem these points for gift cards, merchandise, trips, things of that nature, just to show them that we're watching. We want you to emulate that good behavior over and over. And they have really endorsed it as I've had these conversations with everyone. There's the first thing that everyone says, like, I really love this nectar thing. I didn't care what company it was, but I wanted something consistent to reward everyone, not just a few people, but everyone. I mean, we do bonuses for managers and so forth, but every hourly individual we want to address. In addition, the last thing, of course, we're in a fun environment. You guys can come in for free as much as you want. We just want to make sure you understand it. So when you start stacking up, who's that first person we're going to get that gets into our organization? They might be comparing it to a fast food, another opportunity down the street. Do you get free food? I know a lot of restaurants are cutting it back in California anyway, free things. So we want it to be an employer of choice that says, these are the reasons why you want to work for us. And in an environment that's inviting, that the management is listening to you, that we're recognizing you. I always go out to, do you feel like you're being recognized when I have these one-on-ones? And they say it up and down. You know, they tell me, thank you. They give me a good job. And, you know, just things like that. It goes, I think they're getting the core values ingrained now. And it's coming through when I talk to the hourly team members. It's one thing to say, this is what we want you to do to the management and the supervisors. But then when you finally talk to the hourly manager, you go, wow, it really has sunk in. This is great, because those are the types of people that are on the bus. They want to stay with us, and they feel like, to me, like they're now with the employer of choice that they can go to. So I think it starts with, what do you believe in your core values? And then how do you emulate that to each of the team members?
Tim, I'd like to dive in a little bit to kind of the thought process or the methodology to keep so many different locations across the country on the same page, right? Because, you know, you talk about maybe not having a central location, but then having to keep people on the same page, your corporate team, all of your locations and things like that. So I know a lot of organizations struggle with communication. So what are some things that you're doing to really keep everybody on the same page so that they're all working toward those same pillars, those same core values?
So most businesses do the same thing. You know, hey, the week's over with, we're going to have an operational call. Of course we do that too. We hear, how did the week go? What's good? What's bad? Any safety related issues? What was outstanding one of the team members did? Did we have any issues? That was a safety related issue. Results, what do we hear? Extreme heat, we hear weather. That's all we hear this year. Extreme heat, extreme cold, rain. But after you get past that point of view, you go, okay, we know that's the main park manager. We do that also with the food and beverage manager, but it's also having the one-on-ones when we go out to the park and discussing with team members, putting it, it's one thing to say, hey, these are core values and sticking it up on the wall on a poster, but it's also saying, this is how we look at this. This is how we go through it. I personally do with all management and corporate to a monthly. I used to do it every week until I saw everyone's kind of getting on page, but now I do it monthly, where we go back over and we rediscuss a core value. What does that mean? What are some ideas? Today was integrity. How do we talk about integrity? If you don't have it, you're not going to be as good. It's one thing to say something, but it's also to act when no one's looking. So, how do you act and how do you do those things? So we put it out there in multiple ways. We've created a little university for managers. We create a little university for supervisors, and we bring them into that culture. They really get a deeper dive, not only into safety and finance and marketing, but also what core values mean, each of them. And we go through them to make sure they understand. And we also give them a bit of a project. One thing that we've implemented on a lot of our calls is, I don't know if you're familiar with Kahoot, a quiz type of thing. And so they go through the process, and it's kind of fun playing the game, who's doing great and who's not. But we're trying to take an assessment along the way, so we also know what else do we need to talk about with everyone. Are we missing something? When it's not just me, but my COO goes out, or marketing goes out, or managers are now more talking to each other. How do you handle this? How do you do that? Versus the silos that were originally there when we first took over. So I think it's a complete, how do we talk about it operationally, food and beverage? How do we talk about it individually? How do we talk about it as in a group? We reinforce with manager meetings that we do annually, where we bring all the main managers together, and we kind of go back over this. We discuss it continuously. I talk about it on my calls. I talk about it with my team, the direct reports to me, the CFO, the COO, and head of HR. And that gets filtered down, and we make sure that gets filtered down. And frankly, how we know we make sure it gets filtered down is we go out to the parks and we talk to folks. And what do you know? What do you believe in? What do you hear? There's a lot of things we know sometimes don't get disseminated down to the park level, hourly level, and we want to make sure and keep encouraging our team members to do it. So it's a continuous effort. It's not just like one thing, it's multiple things to get in front of people.
Tim, can you share some of the results or success stories that you've seen from implementing all these?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's funny. We put something out recently. It was kind of like, if you don't see something happening correctly, we want you to report that. And we go, okay, people are just going to narc on each other. What are they going to physically do here, right? And it's interesting. We're getting some good feedback. They're not really there to hurt someone. They understand this is a business, but it's also understanding we're breaking down. We might not be doing something. And we would have never had that when we first started. So I'm seeing that in different ways, whether it's a safety related issue or it's a not following a procedural issue. People feel more open to discuss that. I find doing a one-on-one is where they really do open up, because I have a standard 3 questions I ask people when I go out to the park. It's like, why do you like working here? And then you go into, well, what don't you like about working here? All right. My last question, which really gets into, what would you change if you could change anything in this park? And eventually you start getting them really open up. And that's really where you get a lot of feedback. A lot of great ideas come out of it. And so having that openness and willing to just listen, a lot of, when I first started, I had to preach a lot of stuff. This is what we're going to change, what we're going to do. Now it's a lot of listening and trying to say, all right, that could make your job better. Or, hey, I'm really hearing you. Could we do it this way? And I really get that a lot more of that feedback when I see it. What I also see is managers stepping up, doing more than they're probably requested to do. I see supervisors stepping up a little bit more because they feel more part of the team, where initially they didn't feel as much part of the team, and the previous regime that ran the company didn't really disseminate information to them, where we want them in our transparency to do that, and we get that feedback. They know they can fail in a safe environment if they bring it up to us. And they know they're not going to be, you need to do this better, don't do this. They know we're not going to do that to them. And they know that they're a little more open. We're a little more flexible. Brandon does a fantastic job, or COO, when we go over operational calls. I'll look at the numbers and go, horrible week. You did a great week by doing this, this, and this. It's like, that's great for building them up. And thank goodness that you're doing those things. Because I know if it was me, it's like, because I know I got to report to the private equity firm going, oh, yeah, okay. This is really what's going on. This is what we're fixing. But so I see that in our management, our corporate personnel, really investigating things and questioning things. I don't mean questioning like, why'd you do it? In questioning of, maybe there's another little bit more here that I can pull out of somebody. So I see it in all levels, whether it's HR, whether it's marketing, whether it's operationally. And I just think it's the overall culture that's associated with it. So I don't know if that's specific that you want, Josh. Can I get a little deeper for you if you want?
No, that was great. No, I really appreciate you sharing those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So Tim, I'm wondering if we can switch gears for a little bit, just to talk a little bit about something that really impacts every entertainment facility, whether you're indoor, outdoor, large amusement park, small FEC, and that's weather. And I know that's something you're also passionate about in terms of having a plan for weather and being able to kind of weather the storm, if you will. So can you tell us a little bit about how Boomers and Big Kahunas really prepare for weather that might be coming and maybe even take advantage of some of those patterns?
Yeah, well, first, I think it's initially we react to things, right? So, all right, what happened here? All right, the weather's coming in, it's real cold, it's real wet, or major storm, or real heat, a lot of heat. Nobody wants to get a go-kart when it's 110 degrees outside. I get that. I don't want to be on it either. But what can we do? Anyway, so now we've got more to an automated marketing. Hey, these are things you can do inside. These are the cooler things. These are maybe specials that are inside. If we have laser tag, we have bumper cars, something in the arcade, food and beverage to bring people in. We really try to market it based off, and we have a standard response on the water parks or the FECs. New Jersey, I mean, we get snow in the winter, right? I mean, unfortunately, that's a problem. But hey, it's always 80 degrees inside when you come inside of a facility versus everyone that's dealing with snow. That brings people in. And when it's so hot, how do we make them cool? What are the things we have? We do put misters out. We do things of that nature. But I think the industry in itself has to take a step back and say, all right, understanding this, it rains almost every day here in Orlando. So, what do we do with this? How do we address this? Can we do more of this inside? I have indoors and outdoors. I prefer more indoors. The folks that I talk to that FECs that have indoors, they don't have canceled groups, parties, events, weekends, date night, whatever it might be. So how can we build more of that? And how do we go forward with this? I think from Boomer's point of view, or FECs, we're licensed in 37 states to franchise, and we see that opportunity in real estate that we talked about a few moments ago to go indoors. We can control this. But I also believe in not just throwing something in a box, which is what I believe a lot of FECs do. You throw product in, you throw color, maybe logo, and call it a day. And instead of saying, no, I think we need to design this a little bit better. You're not going to be Disney and Universal. We understand that. We don't have those budgets. But the point is, can we theme this a little bit better? Can we look at things and create foods based off of that? Can we make a different environment inside? Can we utilize a space? I mean, we have a 20-foot ceiling in a lot of these commercial real estate facilities. You can start going double decker. You can get a mezzanine up there. You can take go-karts like Urban Air has done and put it up over top of arcades and come back down. So I think we have to think about the weather as we move forward in this industry and really think about, you're going to get hit. I mean, I think about Boca Raton when it rains on the weekend going, wow, this is great. I know I've got no business there, probably, because I can't let someone out on the go-kart track or even the miniature golf for safety purposes until it's dry. You could get a shower come through and it's going to take an hour or two. Even if you got blowers to try to clean this stuff up, it is not enough for safety purposes. And we're a very safe company. We've actually lowered our insurance and general liability and umbrella because of our safety culture. Last year, we dropped our insurance 22%, but I know a lot of those in the industry are going up 15%. So it's about being safe in the right environment. So the answer is, I think, ultimately is go indoors as much as possible. Things we do for safety, for shade, to get out of the shade, and even in the water parks when it's hot, got to have shade covers. You can't let people be burning their feet and, getting hurt in these areas. You got to build enough of these things to get them out of the elements when and where you can. But it costs money to do this. So I think re-looking at, especially FECs, how do you redo an FEC? In New Jersey, our water park is indoors and outdoors. Obviously, when it rains, the outdoors closed. It really, I can't control this. I don't want someone to get hurt out there. Indoors, at least I can control that piece, but it's not as much of an experience when you have it. So if you're going to be building, it needs, to me, indoors as much as possible. The good thing for those that are building those very large FECs, basically an indoor theme park, that's where the opportunity will come in and long-term will help them. But I believe FECs can also be in smaller facilities and be much more effective and be much more profitable. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of weather and going indoors and tying this with kind of the retail apocalypse portion of the conversation we mentioned earlier, and tying in the fact that you said you were licensed in 37 states to be able to franchise, kind of want to combine all those together and really look towards the future as far as where you see maybe not only just Boomers, but really just the family entertainment space in general as it relates to franchising and tying in controllable factors like being indoors and utilizing retail.
Yeah, I think it's a natural fit. The real estate the real estate apocalypse that has taken place, not only retail, but office space, more is coming on office space. Industrial park space, it's close to drive-throughs or drive areas. I used to have trampoline parks in the middle of industrial parks, and nobody would go there. You got it. How do I get directed to this place? So there's plenty of other buildings that are sitting on the edge or the fringe of where most people drive. So drive-by is a portion of it. But if you understand how to bring guests to you, drive-by doesn't mean as much as long as you got a good address. and know where to go to. So I think from my point of view and the FEC industry, there's plenty of places to go towards. You can go indoors, and to me, you control your destiny. The thing that I think when they think about this, they got to be thinking about the food and beverage component of this, which a lot of them don't still. And even when I had trampoline parks or other competitors I looked at in trampoline parks, it was a cafe or vending machines. That is not food that someone's going to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to eat that. I'm going to stay for a while. No, they want to drink. They want something good. They want something where they know, hey, this might be my dinner, date night. It groups out. If you have the right food, you don't have to go way over the top. You just have to have the fan favorites and some other good things that they're really going to go after. If you go into alcohol and you're going to go towards to me, the right demographics, 10 to 50-year-olds, I think that fits my spot pretty well. A lot of them go towards 2 to 12-year-olds. And yeah, they're good, but when they cycle out of that, they're not coming back. I want someone who's going to go generation after generation after generation and bring back their kids, when they get to a parent age. So the point is, go indoors, have real good food, go after this real estate, because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for those to look at the real estate, because landlords are willing to do, I know some are willing to do half rents, pay all TI. I know some that will pay for the equipment. So I know a few operators that have come in that they just showed up with working capital and they're open. Now, it's not everything I'm projecting to put into an FEC. What I'm projecting is what has served us well at Boomers. Electric go-karts, all right? We're not electric go-karts at Boomers, but go-karts is our #1 attraction. Let's put them indoors. We can do electric on all this. Miniature golf's #2, somewhere in there. Then you might have laser tag and arcade, but let's do some other social-related activities. We've done really well with food and beverage and our liquor, beer, and wine. So full restaurant, full bar, not one that's just thrown in a corner someplace, and have places for people to hang out in a social activity. So what I've also projected in our FEC prototype that I'm designing is electric go-karts, the laser tag, the miniature golf, arcade games, redemption, party rooms, mezzanine with bar, restaurant and bar, but also duck pin bowling, electronic axe throwing, electronic dart throwing, more for that adult social. Obviously, we'll have waivers and so forth for this, but it's more social related, lanes to do this. And you're not just throwing it at a dartboard or a circle. It's playing games with projection. Get this a little bit more fun, hitting balloons or playing tic-tac-toe or different games associated with it. And I'm even seeing, I've going out a little bit further in the design is karaoke rooms. Just something this is all a social related type of activity for adults. But I still have enough in there for the kids, the go-karts, the miniature golf, the laser tag, and also looking at putting in gel blasters in that same laser tag arena. So it's different things, and having a little bit of space for new stuff that's coming out, because there's always new stuff hitting our industry. So I believe those combinations fit, and hence that's what we've designed as a prototype for ultimately for franchisees. Again, we're licensed in 37 states. And what we're doing differently versus a lot in the franchising space is we're going after a different demographic, an older demographic. That will stay there hopefully longer and maybe bring back their kids as they've gone through this process. When I was at Boomers in Irvine, I met with the mayor at Irvine, and she said, I came here as a kid and now I'm bringing my kids here. Same type of atmosphere we want to be able to bring to the franchising space indoors.
Yeah, you're really talking about kind of that generational loyalty, right? Where that may not have been a thing for family entertainment centers as much, in the past. But certainly as you're expanding your offerings, expanding the time that people spend there, I just feel like the longer you stay someplace, if you're having a good experience, the more loyal ultimately you're going to be, and the more you're going to want to come back. So sounds like a winning formula.
We hope so. We believe so for sure.
Right. Well, Tim, this is great. Been great having you back on the show. It's great to see you as always. If people want to know more about Boomers or get in touch with you directly, where would you send them?
Sure. First, go to Boomers Parks, BOOMERSPARKS.com. If you're interested in franchising, you can go to the franchising page there. If you want to contact me personally, simple, Tim@boomersparks.com. So you can get a hold of me that way. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Josh.
We will make sure to put all that in the show notes so people can get a hold of you and visit their nearest Boomers Park or Big Kahuna's. And so, Tim, we really appreciate your time today. We always enjoy chatting with you. And for everyone out there who is watching and listening, just remember, we are all Attraction Pros.
Thanks for listening to the Attraction Pros podcast.
Make sure to subscribe so you can tune in when new episodes release. And even better, please leave us a review on iTunes.
For more information, visit attractionpros.com.